Okay, there we go. What's going on, everybody? We're here. We're live. I want to thank you all for joining me today. I'm 15 minutes late, but it is what it is, right? So, anyways, I got my notes, I got my tea, and I'm ready to go. If you can all hear and see me clearly, please drop a one in the live chat. And then we can get today's show started. Just drop a one for me real quick if you can see and hear me clearly, and we can get today's show started. Let me pick my tea up off the floor. Okay. Okay, cool. Great, great, great. All right, dope. So I see the ones coming in now. So let's get started. Today's going to be a pretty interesting show, right? And to be honest with you, this is really going to be part one of what most likely will be a possible three-part series. There's going to be a part two for sure, but there might even be a third one to this. So a lot of things that are going to be laid down right now are the basics, a lot of reviews, and just a lot of groundwork for a more in-depth conversation concerning immigration, illegal immigration, and Black America, right? Now, as many of us remember, right, in the great words of Dr. Claude Anderson, in the video that I always call, or at least I personally refer to as the great prophecy of Dr. Claude Anderson, where he stated, Black Americans' number one threat, right, their biggest threat was the influx of immigrants coming into the country that essentially will erase you, right, as you move further down the population ladder and become number four. We all remember his classic line: if you couldn't get anything when you're number two, what do you think you're going to get when you're number four? Now it appears that this time has come upon us, right? Everything that he laid out in that clip that I played multiple times has come to pass. So now here we are, in this situation where you have an influx of illegal immigrants. And with this influx of illegal immigrants, it is a 100% fact, right, beyond reasonable doubt, that illegal immigration hurts Black Americans. Now, for those of you who may be new to this information and you're unaware of this, I'm just going to play a short clip. I think it's about maybe 2 minutes long. Many of you have seen this. Many of you have seen this already, but we have to keep in consideration those who are new to the information. So I want to play this quick clip for you guys that proves the point that I'm making right now. And once again, in part two, I'm going to be proving this point in more in depth with more data and information. But for right now, I'm going to play this clip for you guys just to get us all caught up on the fact that, yes, indeed, illegal immigration does hurt the Black community.
To conduct a hearing on this. And there were at least 3 hearings that we conducted, one of which was designed specifically.
You know what? It's very important for me to make sure you guys see this also, right? This was from the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights, okay? So this isn't some random fugazi think tank, all right? This was from the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights.
To determine the effect of illegal immigration on Black workers. We had a panel of experts who testified, and they spanned the ideological spectrum. Regardless of whether or not they disagreed on discrete policy issues, each and every one of them agreed that illegal immigration has a decidedly negative impact on Black wage levels and employment levels. If you've got a significant influx of low-wage labor, what does it do? It depresses wage levels, correct? And what we found also was, regardless of the wage levels, illegal immigrants displaced Black workers in areas that had traditionally been populated by Black workers. And the reason for that is because what you find is Black workers, particularly Black males, are disproportionately concentrated in the low-wage labor market and are disproportionately likely to have no more than a high school diploma. And the same is true for the cohort of illegal aliens, and they compete with one another in areas such as construction, hospitality, service, and agriculture. This was not a small displacement either. We had one witness who testified that after he had run the numbers, he found that 40% of the decline in labor participation rates among black workers over 3 decades was attributable to competition from illegal immigration. It comes to nearly 1 million fewer jobs for black Americans as a result of the competition from illegal immigrants. And it's not just the employment levels, it's the wage levels also. And I can only give you a few examples, but we had evidence from the Fed in Atlanta, which did a study on this, to show that illegal immigrants depressed wages, the competition from illegal immigrants depressed wages by $960 on average, but in certain sectors, such as the hospitality industry, the depression of wage levels was $1,560. And because black workers were disproportionately concentrated in those areas, they were disproportionately affected.
Now, as I stated earlier, this information isn't new information, obviously, to you all, because I've discussed this before. Many of you all have heard other people discuss this and talk about that, right? But like I said, we need to make sure we're taking consideration for those who are new to the information. But here's something that many of you may not know, right? What many of you may not know is how far back this fight goes, right? The fight between Black Americans, particularly the descendants of American slaves, the fight against them being replaced, right, and pushed to the side in favor of illegal immigrants as well as legal migrants as well. This is something that has been going on literally for over a century and a half now, right? And I want to give you guys a little bit of information. Remember, Michael Eric Dyson said that we don't read. Well, I definitely do. And I want to read you guys a little something right now, just so you can actually get a grasp of how far back this struggle actually goes. So what you're looking at on your screen right now, right? This is the beginning of chapter 2 of a phenomenal book that I strongly suggest everyone reads at least once. And if not, I know a lot of people are really busy and it's hard to find time to read. Go listen to the audiobook. You download I think it was the Audible app. I have that also, and listen to the audiobook. But this book is called Back of the Hiring Line: A 200-Year History of Immigration Surges, Employer Bias, and Depression of Black Wealth. Now, hopefully, you know what? Let me take this banner off very quickly. So to make sure you guys can see the whole thing, let me take the little banner off that's going around very quickly. I need you to be able to see this whole thing. Okay. Okay. So now let me read this to you. Okay. Chapter 2, a quick walkthrough the history, 1820 to 2020. Okay. This is insane how far back this goes. In the 1820s in the North, well before the Civil War, more than 100,000 African Americans were free of slavery and in the labor force when the first waves of mass migration swept over American shores. Historians find that employers immediately began to take advantage of the surplus of labor and the larger choice of white employees whom they moved to the front of the hiring lines. Black workers were systemically displaced over the next decades of spikes in immigration, mainly from Northern Europe. Ex-slave Frederick Douglass. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. They don't teach you this stuff. They don't tell you nothing about this stuff. And I thought Hotep hooligans like myself, we don't read. Well, I'm reading to you right now. This Hotep hooligan reads, okay? I know my stuff. Ex-slave Frederick Douglass, the abolitionist orator, activist, and writer, lamented at the time, the old employments by which we have heretofore gained our livelihood are gradually and it may be inevitably passing into other hands. Every hour sees the black man elbowed out of employment by some newly arrived immigrant whose hunger and whose color are thought to give him a better title to the place. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that was Frederick Douglass, okay? Uh that wasn't me, right? The Hotep hooligan, Tony Delarmy. That didn't come from me. That came from Frederick Douglass. Trust me when I tell you, when I do part 2 of this live stream, we're going to get deep into the data, the statistics, and the historical information behind how far back this struggle, this fight actually goes. So now, before we dive any deeper into this live stream, please make sure you hit the like button. Please share this video out on your social media platforms. Also, if you're new to the channel, please make sure you hit the subscribe button as well as the bell notification next to the subscribe button. And if you haven't already, please show your support to the channel. It is definitely appreciated. It does not go unnoticed. And I do see that there are some of you who have shown love to the channel so far already. Thank you very much, DeAndre, who stated, here goes something for you to get that soundboard for just talking next week. I'm most definitely going to have the soundboard for Just Talking next week. And for those of you who don't know what Just Talking is a podcast channel that me and our good brother Rob from Blacklight Revelations 2, who you see right here, we do that podcast together. The channel is called Just Talking with TD and Rob. And DeAndre, he just put a little something down on the soundboard. We definitely going to have the soundboard next week. Thank you, DeAndre. It's definitely appreciated. And also, I want to thank JT Coin Rings, who said, thank you for the information. Thank you for your contribution to the channel, brother. It is definitely very much appreciated. So now let me take a little sip of this tea, and then we're going to carry on. Okay, give me just a second. Yeah, y'all don't know nothing about being healthy, you know. I'm gonna make sure to throw that in you guys' face every live stream. I think last live stream, I told you guys you don't know nothing about that ginger and turmeric tea. Y'all out here drinking soda. Nah, not me. So let's carry on. Okay, let's carry on. And once again, I really have to reiterate, this book right here, Back of the Hiring Line, a 200-year history of immigration surges, employer biases, and depression of Black wealth. This is a must read, okay? A must and critical read. Adrian Hinks, he always drinking. Every live stream I do, I'm drinking on something, whether it's this live stream, the live streams I do here on the main channel, or if it's on Just Talking with TD and Rob. You know, I always got to have a little something for my throat, right? So... but let's carry on, right? Let's carry on. That's enough with the jokey jokes. And also too, I'm glad I didn't forget this before I moved on, right? I want to make sure you know too, because there's a lot of like fake news that goes around, right, concerning, this is hate speech and all this kind of stuff. That quote that I just read from Frederick Douglass, right? Listen, I want to make sure everything's authentic. That quote from Frederick Douglass is a direct quote from his book titled Frederick Douglass, My Bondage and My Freedom. Okay, so this is Frederick Douglass who wrote this out. This is his book. This is all factual information. Okay, and for those of you who don't know, I'll read this for you real quick. Right, Frederick Douglass, My Bondage and My Freedom. My Bondage and My Freedom is an autobiographical slave narrative written by Frederick Douglass and published in 1855. It is the second of three autobiographies written by Frederick Douglass and is mainly an expansion on his first narrative of the life of Frederick Douglass, an American slave. Okay, so I just want to make sure that we got everything covered here. All right, got everything covered here. So now the question stands, right, with everything that I just stated. If the CBC knows how negatively illegal immigration and legal immigration overall negatively impacts the Black community, then why don't they do anything about it, right? Even Frederick Douglass knew and felt and discussed the impact of immigration on the Black community, specifically speaking, the descendants of American slavery. Well, why is that? Well, uh, in short, the simple answer is because the Congressional Black Caucus isn't designed to exclusively benefit Black Americans, right? Not like how every other caucus is literally exclusively designed to benefit Black Americans. And I want to go through that right now, right? Let's go through some of these about pages very quickly, so that you can see that what I'm saying is true, right? I'm not making this stuff up. So right here is the about page for the Congressional Hispanic Caucus. And it reads as such: the CHC addresses national and international issues and crafts policies that impact the Hispanic community. The function of the caucus is to serve as a forum for the Hispanic members of Congress to coalesce around a collective legislative agenda. The caucus is dedicated to voicing and advancing through the legislative process issues affecting Hispanics in the United States, Puerto Rico, and the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands. Okay. The Congressional Asian Caucus, what the Congressional Asian Pacific American Caucus reads as such. When you go to purpose, right? To ensure legislation passed by, excuse me. Oh, and I may have had this covered up. If it was covered up, forgive me. The Congressional Hispanic Caucus portion. But now we're here at the Asian Caucus, right? Purpose: to ensure that legislation passed by the United States Congress to the greatest extent possible, I'm going to read it again, to ensure that legislation passed by the United States Congress to the greatest extent possible provides for the full participation of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders and reflects the concerns and needs of the Asian American and Pacific Islander communities to the greatest extent possible. Now, this portion that I have in green, I have it highlighted here in green to make sure that I read this. And let me zoom in because it looks like it's a little small for you guys to see. Because I know there'll probably be somebody that'll point this out to where it says also to work with other members and caucuses to protect and advance the civil rights and constitutional rights of all Americans. That's just general. That's by default. Everybody who goes into Congress, takes an oath to uphold the Constitution, right? So that doesn't mean anything in general because that's just the basics of what you're supposed to do when you enter into Congress. But as it pertains to the Congressional Asian and Pacific Islander Caucus, they're designed, as you can see, to ensure that legislation passed by the United States Congress to the greatest extent possible provides for the full participation of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. When you continue to read this, it says to establish policies on legislation and issues relating to persons of Asian and or Pacific Islander ancestry who are citizens or nationals of residents of are citizens or nationals of residents of or immigrants to the United States, its territories, and possessions, and to provide a structure to coordinate the efforts and enhance the ability of Asian American and Pacific Islander members of Congress to accomplish these goals. Translation: the Asian American and Pacific Islander Caucus is for Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders, just like how we just went through. The Hispanic Caucus is for Hispanics. But then, of course, we have the Congressional Black Caucus, which the name of the Congressional Black Caucus really needs to be changed to the Congressional Caucus of People of Color, Minorities, and Marginalized Groups, right? Because as it reads here, since the establishment in 1971, the Congressional Black Caucus has been committed to using the full constitutional power, statutory authority, and financial resources of the federal government to ensure that African Americans and other marginalized communities in the United States have the opportunity to achieve the American dream, right? We come down a little bit more and you can see it reads here, and I'll zoom in for you. Oops, that's a little bit too much because it does appear to be small on your end, right? But as you can also see here, it states expanding access to capital, contracts, and counseling for minority owned businesses, not Black businesses, minority owned businesses, not Black businesses, and promoting U.S. foreign policy initiatives in Africa and other countries that are consistent with the fundamental right of human dignity. Now, if you go back and you remember the other caucuses that I read off to you, they all made mention to some degree of their continental homelands, right? To kind of look out for them too. But even with the Congressional Black Caucus, they couldn't just look out for Africa, the continent of Africa. And this is really wild when you think about it. They couldn't just look out for the continent of Africa and the, like, I think it's the 54, 56 countries within Africa. No, 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 no. It's for Africa and other countries that are consistent with the fundamental right in with the fundamental right of human dignity and other countries. So it's the continent of Africa as well as all of Latin America, all of Asia, all of Europe, and the Middle East as well. But I think the Middle East I think technically the Middle East is Asia, right? But they let them have their own thing, I guess. The Middle East as well. They can't even just hold down Africa only. No, it has to be all other countries, right? But I digress. I don't want to go on too much of a tangent, right? Now, before we carry on, I just want to take a moment once again to, just acknowledge those that have showed contributions to the channel. Black Logic, thank you very much for the super chat, for the super sticker. It's definitely very much appreciated. Like I said, the support to this channel does not go unnoticed. So thank you, thank you, thank you very much. It is very much needed. And it's very important. It helps to keep things moving along with the growth of the channel. And I also want to thank, where are we at? Stupor, I'm sorry. Superstar Rising for the $9.99 super chat. Thank you very much, Superstar Rising. Okay. Now, if you thought that was bad, everything that I read to you so far, if you thought that it was all just can't believe what I'm reading, like they say in the commercials, but wait, there's more, right? I got more for you. So let's go back to the Congressional Black Caucus page, right? Okay. So now we're here back on the Congressional Black Caucus page. Now, I don't know how many of you know this, right? And I personally just found out about this very recently. I want to say about 2 weeks ago, right? But did you know that this Congressional Black Caucus formed an immigration task force? Yes, the Congressional Black Caucus formed an immigration task force, not a reparations task force. No, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But they didn't form a reparations task force. The Congressional Black Caucus formed an immigration task force, with the chair being Yvette D. Clarke, and as you see here in quotes, lifting up the voices of Black immigrants. Who's all in this? Maxine Waters, Sheila Jackson Lee, Barbara Lee, Yvette D. Clarke, Karen Bass, Frederica Wilson, Mark VC, I believe that's how you pronounce it, Stacy Plaskett, and Ayanna Presley from the squad. All right, Ayanna Presley. So can you believe it? An immigration task force created by the Congressional Black Caucus, right? But not a reparations task force. Now, when you come to this quote here, right? Lifting up the voices of Black immigrants. What that's really all about is getting you on board with immigration policies overall, right? Because we all know that, and they know as well, illegal immigration as well as traditional, just legal immigration as well. But in this day and age, more so illegal immigration hurts the Black community. But to mask the fact that illegal immigration hurts the Black community, and for you to get you on board, right, with these new immigration policies, they use Black immigrants in order to mask that, to make you feel bad and say, oh, yeah, we got to help the Black immigrants out. But it's really not about the Black immigrants at all, right? The population size of Black immigrants is significantly small in comparison to the population size of undocumented illegal Hispanic immigrants. Now, let's go over that right now. Okay. So, where we are right now is the Migration Policy Institute profile of unauthorized populations in the United States. That's where we are right now. And if you come here, you scroll down here, like not at the bottom, but a little bit at the top, you see where it says regions of birth. Okay, so these are the regions of birth of all of the undocumented immigrants in the United States. Now, obviously, there are significantly more undocumented immigrants, illegal immigrants in the United States. I don't have it in front of me right now, but many of you may know the Yale study that I cited. I want to say it was about a year ago when I spoke on immigration, where the Yale study stated that 11 million number of undocumented immigrants concerning Hispanic immigrants that's always being talked about, right? Or the 11 million number, it's actually more like 22 million. It's not 11 million. It's 22 million. That's how many there are, right? According to the Yale study. But for now, we'll just go off of, US data, right? So let's take a look at what's going on here and who's actually in the country illegally and how many there are. If you look here, you have Mexico and Central America, 7.3 million. That's 67% of illegal immigrants. South America, which is, Latin America as well. South America, 907,000, 8%. Now, if I'm not mistaken, 67 plus 8 is 75. Correct? Let me do the math. Let me count my fingers real quick. 67, 8, 9, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, that's 75%. I hope it is. It's 75% of undocumented immigrants, illegal immigrants in the country. 75% are Hispanic, right? Only 4% are European from Canada or Oceania. 15% are from Asia. That's the second largest amount. 15% from Asia. But when it comes to Black immigrants, the Caribbeans and Africa combined only make up for 6% of the illegal immigration population. So once again, none of this stuff has anything to do with Black immigrants, but it has everything to do with using Black immigrants to get you on board with policies to assist illegal immigrants that everyone knows clearly hurts you, right? And I want to show you something else too, just so you see how diabolical, right? I need you to understand how diabolical the Congressional Black Caucus is, right? Let me show you guys something. How many of you all remember this tweet? This is a tweet from like 2019, I believe. Oops. Hopefully they didn't delete it on me. Let's see if it pulls up. Here we go. Yeah. This was from June 22nd, 2019, right? And look how diabolical. I'm going to bring this up in a part 2 of this discussion, right? But the Congressional Black Caucus states here in this 2019 tweet, "We're proud to be with the Virginia Museum to commemorate the 400-year anniversary of forced African migration to the U.S. CBC, State of Black America." I'm going to read that one more time. "We're proud to be with the Virginia Museum to commemorate the 400-year anniversary of forced African migration to the US. Forced African migration. The CBC is so bent on selling you on immigration policies that they're now even going as far as to convince the descendants of American slavery that they themselves are immigrants, right? And calling it forced African migration. So technically, we're all immigrants, right? We're all in this together. People of color, minority, marginalized groups. Because, despite the fact that you were brought here against your will, right? That you were sold over here, it was still immigration, forced African migration. At least that's how they're attempting to sell it to you. This is how diabolical these people are, right? That's how diabolical that they are. Now, after you see the kind of games that they're playing, right? I want to take a moment also now to go to this portion right here, immigration reform. And I want to read this off to you from the Congressional Black Caucus website so that we can get an understanding of their mindset behind, why they're choosing to get behind policies that clearly hurt Black Americans. But before we do that, please make sure, if you haven't already, take a moment to hit the like button. Please hit the like button. Please share this video out. If you're new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button and also hit the bell notification next to the subscribe button as well. And if you haven't already, but you do find this information valuable and the work that I do here valuable, please show your love to the channel by a few contributions by way of super chat. You can do so via CashApp, $tdhiphop. You can join Patreon as well, or you can become a channel member. So now let's carry on. I want to head over back to the Congressional Black Caucus website. Okay, so let's come over here and let's see some of this splaining, because that's what's really going on here. Splaining. Okay, so let me blow this up a little bit because I know it's a little small for you guys on your end. Give me a moment. Blow it up a bit. Immigration reform. Lifting up the voices of Black immigrants. Okay. An estimated 11 million undocumented migrants call America home. 575,000 of them are Black. That's 6%. Okay. 6% out of that 11 million. Black immigrants, much like African Americans, are disproportionately targeted by the criminal justice system, which often leads to deportation and detention. Consequently, although Black immigrants only represent 5% of the undocumented population in the United States, they represent more than 20% of immigrants facing detention and deportation on criminal grounds. From the institution of slavery to today's institutions, look at how they're weaving together immigration and slavery, immigration and Jim Crow, immigration and Black codes. Okay, it's anyways. You get it. I don't have to beat a dead horse. I don't have to beat a dead horse about that. Okay, so let me carry on. But it's just amazing how they do this, right? So let me start that over again. From the institution of slavery to today's institution, the criminal justice, juvenile justice, and child welfare system, I mean, they're just incorporating everything, every aspect of Black American struggle, they're incorporating it into immigration, right? And child welfare systems, African Americans know all too well the pain of the forced separation of our families. The tragic history unites African Americans with Black, Latino, and other immigrant communities. It is astonishing to me. It is astonishing to me, right? How the Congressional Black Caucus just cannot keep the conversation focused on just Black folks in general. Okay. let alone Black Americans, but just Black folks in general. Even when talking about Black immigrants, they still feel the need to include Latinos and other immigrants as well, Asians, Canadians, whoever. It just can't be specifically about Black folks, let alone Black Americans. And we all know why that is, right? Because of a little something called benign neglect, right? And if you don't know what that is, I definitely have videos discussing benign neglect on this channel. That's for sure. Definitely got videos discussing benign neglect. But we're not going to get into all that right now. And give me just a second. I want to thank there are two more other people who have shown love to the channel. I just want to make sure that I shout them out. For some reason, it's not showing up on the StreamYard's end of things. So I can't put it up on the screen. I don't know why it's not showing up on StreamYard's, but fortunately, I see it here on my end. StreamYard's is acting up, but I got it good over here. So I want to thank, I believe it's Dub 3000 with the super sticker that you sent me, and also Afro National as well. Afro National says, "Keep up the great work, brother. Salute." Thank you very much, Afro National, and thank you to everybody else who has shown love and your contribution to today's live stream. So now let's carry on. Let's finish reading the splaining that the Congressional Black Caucus has been doing, right? So in closing, as far as the splaining goes, right? I want to read that part again. This tragic history unites African Americans with Black, Latino, and other immigrant communities. The CBC Immigration Reform Working Group is committed to fixing our broken immigration system by codifying deferred action for childhood arrivals. That's DACA, I believe, right? Extending the temporary protected status of countries that continue to face conflicts and disasters, and advocating for other measures. So there goes all that splaining, right, that they're doing, right? There goes all the splaining. Now, I want to take a moment to go back to the task force, right? Because I really want to, I don't want to lose sight of that, because I obviously included that into the title, right? So let's go back to the immigration task force from the Congressional Black Caucus. Okay. Give me just a second. Oh, I'm sorry. I got thrown off with my notes on where I was supposed to be right now. But now, as it pertains to the task force, I want you to pay attention to the fact that when it comes to task force, let's really break down and understand what they are and what they're supposed to be doing. That's what I want to get into next, right? So we have the immigration task force here, but what do task force do, right? What do they do? What is it all about? Well, we'll start off here with the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, their definition of task force. And it reads as such: the task force are chaired by the Congressional Hispanic Caucus members and are responsible for developing policy priorities, positions, and legislation that will be incorporated into the annual caucus legislative agenda. Okay. Now I want to read this also. This is the definition of task force from the Congressional Progressive Caucus, right? Excuse me. The Congressional Progressive Caucus Task Force works to advance the CPC's mission to justify dignity to the CPC's mission of justice, dignity, and peace for all. Each group will work to move forward legislation and organizing on key issue areas, including convening stakeholders, developing policy and legislation recommendations. I repeat, developing policy and legislative recommendations, and engaging in the public in their important work. Okay. So, in short, when you're talking about task force in general are merely studies, committees, and think tanks, right? to create, prioritize, and push forth legislation. That's all that they are. They are. Task force are simply studies, committees, and think tanks. Nothing more, nothing less, right? Now you got to ask yourself this. Why is it so easy to create task forces and committees for everything and everybody else in this country, but for reparations? That's the question that needs to be asked, right? When it comes to reparations, like you got to go through Congress, you got to go through the House of Representatives, you got to go through the Senate, and then after the House of Representatives and the Senate, then you still got to wait on the president to sign it into law. All this just to put together a task force, a committee, right? A think tank on reparations. Do you see how this only applies to you though? Because you got mad task force over here from the Congressional Black Caucus. Look at all these task force. How many hoops and hurdle? The NCAA task force? I mean, how many hoops and hurdles do you think they went through to establish all these task force, right? Same thing when you come to the Hispanic. This is all the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, all their task force. These are all their task forces that they have, right? Also, when you come back to the Congressional Progressive Caucus, these are all of their task forces. Once again, task forces are merely nothing more than committees, studies, think tanks, right? They study, put together committees, and then they create legislation. They prioritize the legislation, and then they push it forward. And I'm going to show you how easy it is to create a committee, right? Now that the Republicans have taken over the House, just like that, they already created a committee called the Church Committee, right? This article from The Hill reads as such. I work for the Church Committee. What Jim Jordan is leading bears no resemblance, right? So this is somebody that's complaining about the Church Committee that Republicans just put together, right? How long have the Republicans had the House now? How long have they had the House? And like this, they've already put together a committee, but you can't get a committee, reparations committee put together. You can't get no HR 40, right? Now, don't kill me. I know HR 40 is garbage, but that's not the point. The point that I'm trying to make here is when it comes to you, look at all the hoops and hurdles that they make you go through for a committee, for a study, right? For a task force. You got to vote here, you got to vote there, and then you got to wait on the president to sign it. All this nonsense. But you see here, and mind you, Democrats had the House and the Senate for what, 2 years prior to now. Republicans get it, and then immediately they create a task force. Like what, like a week or two in? Oh, a month in, right? A day in after being sworn into office, they're already creating task force and committees. Let's read this really quickly, and then we're going to head on out of here. Republican House Speaker Kevin McCarthy and partisan firebrand Representative Jim Jordan pushed through a party line vote to create a House committee designed to investigate the Biden administration and defend Donald Trump. They call it a new church committee after one of the most consequential investigations of U.S. intelligence agencies chaired by former Senator Frank Church. The committee was established 48 years ago this month after revelations of spying on Americans and assassination plots against foreign leaders. I'm sorry, I need to take a quick sip of this tea. My apologies. Okay. And also too, I want to make sure I want to express this to you all, okay? I am very pleased and happy right now that there are currently 427 of you all here in this live stream. Like I said, we got to make sure that we're showing up to the general news and information videos, not just the celebrity-based videos, and you all have done that today. I think last Friday's live stream, we capped out at like 362 people in the live. This live stream, the highest that I've seen so far is 427 people in today's live stream. So I want to thank you all for showing up today for the quote boring stuff. You know what I mean? This is the stuff that we really need to be showing up for. And I appreciate you all being here. Thank you. So let's carry on. As a young 27-year-old, I served on the staff of that committee. One of the greatest privileges of my life, Later, as an aide to church, I worked on a number of reforms of the intelligence agencies. To compare what is about to take place under Jordan with the careful bipartisan results focused church committee, excuse me, with the careful bipartisan results focused church committee is like comparing newly elected Representative George Santos with Speaker Sammy Rayburn, right? The church committee was created in January 1975 by a vote of 82-4 and was composed of some of the most liberal and conservative senators who pledged to work together to find solutions to the abuse conducted over decades by Democrats and Republican administrations. There was liberal Frank Church as chairman and conservative John Tower as vice chairman, Walter Mondale and Barry Goldwater and Gary Hart and Richard, I can't pronounce that last name, Schwecker, I don't know, among others. In contrast, the new committee, to be headed by Jim Jordan, was approved by a strict party line vote of 221 to 211, with no Democrats in support. According to the resolution creating the committee, it will have 13 Republicans and 5 Democrats. The church committee was 6 Democrats and 5 Republicans. And can anyone see the slightest indication of a bipartisan investigation coming from the Jordan committee? So, my point of reading all that to you just now, right? My point of reading all that to you just now is the fact that I wanted to highlight to you, look at how quickly Republicans were able to form a committee like that. They did it like that. And the Congressional Black Caucus right now, if they wanted to, they could create a reparations task force. You literally, when it comes to studies, I know everybody hates that and they don't want to hear anything about studies, but if this is something that has to be done, when it comes to studies concerning reparations, it's literally something that can be done quickly like this. The CBC, Congressional Black Caucus, could make a reparations task force right now, the same way that they have over a dozen other task force on their website. And when the Democrats had the House, right, for the first 2 years of Biden's administration, they could have formed a reparations committee to do all the studying they needed to do, just like that, the way the Republicans did creating the new church committee. But they choose not to. That's the fact. That's the point. Democrats choose not to do this on a regular day to day, month to month, year to year basis. So that makes it particularly disrespectful when you see people like Sheila Jackson Lee, right? Who about every 3 months, she goes onto the House floor and does this little song and dance where she's pretending to champion for HR 40. And once again, like, I know HR 40 is garbage, but follow me, right? She does this little song and dance about once a quarter where she gives some little, I almost cursed, BS presentation about why we need HR 40 to study reparations and how reparations could do this, that, and the third. It's a song and dance. It's a show. This is something that's done so that they can pretend like they're fighting for reparations, right? When they're not. And then when they address you about it, they look at you like you're crazy. When you say, how come you're not fighting for reparations? Do you remember what Jim Clyburn said when whoever that was like ran up on him at the fish fry? And he said, and one of his constituents said, hey man, what's going on with reparations? And Jim Clyburn, what did he say? Somebody tell me in the comment live chat what he said. Jim Clyburn said, man, stop effing with me. Those were his exact words. Do I have that queued up? Please tell me. That's how I need to end this live stream. We're going to end it with Jim Clyburn because this is how they all think about you, right? And about all of us, but particularly the descendants of American slavery as it pertains to reparations, right? Let me see if I have that. But many of you remember that he said, "Man, stop effing with me," but he didn't say effing. And he said, "I've been fighting for reparations for 35 years or something like that, or 40 years." They're not fighting for anything. It's called bread and circus. And that's what you see Sheila Jackson Lee do every 3 months when she gives these little fake BS presentations on HR 40, right? As if she's fighting. They're not fighting for anything. It's bread and circus. It's a show. That's all that it is. Please tell me that I have this queued up somewhere still. I hate to waste time like this. I'm gonna try to find this very, very quickly. And if I can't find it, then because I know I got it it's on the computer. It's just a matter of me finding it and pulling it up, right? Ooh, I want to end a live stream with this so bad. Let me see. Give me just a second, Clyburn. Please tell me that I have this on here. And while I'm wasting everybody's time, I want to thank you all for joining me today, right? And please make sure you hit that subscribe button, okay? Please make sure you hit the like button if you haven't already, all right? Please make sure you share this video out and hit the bell notification next to the live button. Live button. I see we have 437 people in here now. This is a big leap from how many people we had in here last week. This is great. I love that seeing that everybody's here for the general news and information videos, not just the celebrity-based videos. I'm so glad to see everybody here. Now, let me see if I can find this. If I can't, I'm going to stop wasting your all time, everyone's time right now. I'm so mad. I don't think I can find it, you guys. I don't think I can find it. I don't know where it is. It's somewhere on it. It's somewhere on his laptop, but it's lost. It's lost right now. So with all that being said, that does it for today's video. I want to thank you all for joining me today. There's definitely going to be a part 2 follow-up that's going to be a lot more in-depth concerning data, statistical analysis, and also historical references like what I just referred to at the beginning of the stream concerning Frederick Douglass and Frederick Douglass's gripe with migration and how it negatively impacts Black Americans, particularly the descendants of American slavery. So that's going to be coming soon. I can't say it's going to be next week, but I already know what next week live stream is going to be at Friday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Be here. But it may be 2 to 3 weeks from now. Part 2 of this is going to come up. And like I said, we're going to dive deep into the data, deep into the statistics, as well as the historical references behind how long Black Americans have been fighting against this, right? Illegal immigration, traditional migration, and the effects that it's been having on the Black community. You know, I'm going to end the live stream out with this, actually. I'm going to read that Frederick Douglass quote one more time because you guys aren't going anywhere. I still see 425 people in the live chat. That's amazing. That is phenomenal. And it really does make me happy to see you guys, this many people here. And I anticipate and hope that next Friday's live stream, there's going to be even more than 425. Okay. So let me read this to you guys out in closing. All right. Let's go back to the Frederick Douglass quote on migration. All right. And my mouse is freezing up. Here is what Frederick Douglass had to say. Let's go back to page 17. And once again, if you have not, make sure you do yourself a favor and read this book, Back of the Hiring Line, a 200-year history of immigration surges, employer biases, and depression of Black wealth, okay? This is the beginning of chapter 2, a quick walk through the history, 1820 to 2020. In the 1820s, in the North, well before the Civil War, okay, more than 100,000 African Americans were free of slavery and in the labor force when the first waves of mass migration swept over American shores. Historians find that employers immediately began to take advantage of the surplus labor and the larger choice of white employees whom they moved to the front of the hiring lines. Black workers were systemically displaced over the next decades of spikes in immigration. I repeat, Black workers were systemically displaced over the next decades of spikes in immigration, mainly from Northern Europe. Ex-slave Frederick Douglass, the abolitionist orator, activist, and writer, lamented at the time, "The old employments by which we have here therefore gained our livelihood are gradually, and it may be inevitably, passing into other hands. Every hour sees the Black man elbowed out of employment by some newly arrived immigrant, whose hunger and whose color are thought to give him a better title to the place." If that's not happening currently, then, I don't know what is. I guess I'm truly a Hotep hooligan, because this is clearly happening now. It was going on then during Frederick Douglass's time. He spoke out about it, and it's still going on now. Unbelievable. So with all that being said, that does it for today's stream. Thank you all for joining me today. Thank you to all of you who contributed to today's show by way of Super Chat and Cash App and whatnot. I appreciate everybody being here. Make sure you hit the thumbs up button if you haven't already. Make sure you hit the subscribe button if you're new to the channel. And please make sure you share this live stream out as well. So that does it for today's live. I will see you guys next Friday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'll be here. I'll be on time this time. I was 15 minutes late today. I'll make sure to be here at 2 p.m. precisely Pacific Standard Time next Friday. And also, the last thing as well, as I stated in the last live stream, the goal of this channel this year is to grow to 100,000 subscribers. The number one way that you can all assist me doing that is making sure that when the notifications come through for the new videos, you hit those notifications and watch the videos within the first 15 to 30 minutes that the video was uploaded and published. That first 15 to 30 minutes is critical. Okay, it's critical. So please, within the first 30 minutes that the video is published and uploaded, and you get that notification, watch the video, hit it immediately. And even if you're busy, because everybody has things to do, you might be at work, you might be with the kids, do your brother a solid, hit the notification to watch the video, but then just turn the volume down on your phone and put your phone in your pocket, or maybe set it up on a shelf and let it ride out for at least half of the duration of the video, right? And that's what's going to signal boost in the algorithm. Hey, TD subscribers are watching this video and obviously interested in it. And since they're watching it at a high rate, let's push this content out to the masses. That's how you can all assist me with that. So thank you all for joining me today. And I will catch you all obviously in the regular uploads next week, but in the live stream next week at 2 p.m. next Friday, Pacific Standard Time. Peace. Have a great night.